One of Switzerland's greatest watch companies is not founded by a Swiss man. It is founded by an American from a farming town in New Hampshire, so small that most maps do not bother to name it. The town is Rumney. The population barely reaches a few hundred. The nearest city of any size is Concord, a day's ride south. And yet the man born here on a February morning in 1841 will travel 4,000 miles east, rent a factory on the Rhine, and build a watchmaking house that still operates from the same site more than 150 years later. His name is Florentine Ariosto Jones, and the company he founds in 1868, the International Watch Company, will become IWC Schaffhausen, one of the most recognized luxury watch manufacturers on Earth. An American built it, the Swiss kept it, and the idea behind it outlived them all. To understand why Jones matters, you have to understand how Swiss watches are made before he arrives. Since the middle of the 1500s, when Huguenot refugees fleeing French persecution bring their clockmaking skills to Geneva, Swiss watchmaking has been growing. Calvin's ban on jewelry pushes the city's goldsmiths toward timepieces, and within a generation, Geneva has more watchmakers than it can hold. By the late 1600s, as craftsmen spread from Geneva into the remote Jura Mountains, they develop a system called établissage. It is a cottage industry in the most literal sense. Individual artisans, often farming families, specialize in a single component. One household makes gears, another makes springs, another polishes cases. A woman in one valley cuts pinions by hand all winter. A man in the next valley shapes balance wheels by candlelight. When the snow melts, a central assembler, the établisseur, travels the valleys, collects the finished parts, and builds the watch. The system is ingenious. It scales. By the early 19th century, Swiss workshops already produce some 200,000 watches a year. And by mid-century, the figure is many times that. But the quality is inconsistent. Standardization is poor. Every part is handmade, and tolerances vary from one farmhouse to the next. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, American watch companies in Waltham and Elgin and Boston have pioneered something entirely different: factory production using powered machines that cut interchangeable parts to uniform specifications. The American watches are precise. They are consistent. But they lack the delicacy, the hand-finished refinement, the centuries of accumulated craft knowledge that the Swiss possess. The machine and the hand exist on opposite sides of an ocean, and no one has brought them together, not yet. The year is 1868, and the man who will try is 27 years old. Florentine Ariosto Jones is born on February 15, 1841, in Rumney, Grafton County, New Hampshire. His father, Solomon Jones, is a shoemaker. His mother is Lavinia Craig. The family is modest. Two great-uncles encourage the boy to learn watchmaking, and he apprentices with a watchmaker in Concord. By 1860, the census records show him living in Boston, age 20, occupation listed as clerk, residing in the household of a man named Charles A. Trask. He works at the E. Howard Watch and Clock Company in Roxbury, Massachusetts, at the time America's leading watchmaking firm. The factory floor at E. Howard is a revelation. Powered lathes cut brass plates. Milling machines carve gears to uniform specifications. Every part is interchangeable. A broken wheel can be replaced with an identical wheel from the parts bin, and the watch runs the same. Jones learns this system from the inside. He watches it work. He also watches it fail to produce anything the Swiss would call beautiful. Then the Civil War begins. Jones enlists in the Union Army, 13th Massachusetts Regiment, Company A. He is mustered in on July 25, 1861. He serves for 3 years. He is mustered out on August 1, 1864. He returns to E. Howard after the war and rises to become a director of the company. He is now intimately familiar with the most advanced machine-driven watch production in the United States. He knows what the American system can do. He also knows what it cannot. American watches are well made but lack the finishing, the artistry, the hand-touched refinement that commands the highest prices. The Swiss have the hands. The Americans have the machines. Jones sees the gap and he writes it down. His business plan survives in the IWC archives. The key sentence is plain: to combine all the excellence of the American system of mechanism with the more skillful hand labor of the Swiss. That is the idea. It is not complicated. It does not require a breakthrough in metallurgy or physics. It requires someone willing to move 4,000 miles from home and build a factory where the two systems operate under one roof. In 1868, Jones forms a partnership with Charles Louis Kidder, another American watchmaker. They travel to Switzerland. Jones visits the established watchmaking centers of French-speaking Switzerland, Geneva, and the Jura valleys, and meets unconcealed skepticism. The skilled workers in the West want nothing to do with an American and his machines. But while in the watchmaking town of Le Locle, Jones meets Johann Heinrich Moser, an industrialist and watchmaker who has built a hydroelectric power station on the Rhine in Schaffhausen, a small city in the German-speaking East, far from the traditional watchmaking heartland. Moser has factory premises available. He has water power. And Schaffhausen, though not a major watchmaking center, has a horological tradition dating to the 1500s. Jones travels east. He sees the premises. He signs a lease. He sets up his factory in Moser's industrial complex. The Rhine drives his machines. Swiss craftsmen work alongside American-designed production systems. Jones designs his own movements, the first calibers bearing his name, the Jones caliber. They are robust, high-precision pocket watch movements, and he produces them in batches of 100. On each batch, Jones inscribes small tributes to the home he left behind. 2 movements are signed with his brother's name, Greenleaf. 8 carry his mother's maiden name, Craig. 20 are marked with the name of his birthplace, Rumney. It is a sentimental gesture from a man 4,000 miles from a New Hampshire farming town, scratched into the brass plates of Swiss-made watch movements. The operation grows fast. Within a few years, Jones builds a manufacturing infrastructure capable of producing over 10,000 movements per year, a staggering figure for a single Swiss factory at this time. The Jones calibers are based on a platform strategy, with pattern H representing the highest quality level in the early 1870s. The finished watches are exported to the United States, with a sales office at 5 Maiden Lane in New York City. On January 31, 1874, the International Watch Company is officially incorporated. In 1874 and 1875, Jones builds a new factory at the Baumgarten on the banks of the Rhine. That building will remain IWC's headquarters into the 21st century. He files patents and improvement in watch regulators in February 1869, and a stem winding and hand-setting mechanism in June 1870, co-invented with Kidder. The factory hums, the movements ship, the idea is working. And then it stops. Jones's entire business model depends on one market, the United States. In 1873, an economic recession hits the American economy. At the same time, large American manufacturers, Waltham and Elgin among them, flood the domestic market with cheaper watches. Crucially, the United States government declines to lift the 25% import duty on Swiss watches entering the country. The tariff wall is insurmountable. IWC is producing more raw movements than it can finish and sell. The company has underestimated the capital required for its ambitious operation. By 1875, stockholders claim the company is on the brink of collapse. Jones is forced to return to America. He sells his stake in 1876. The dream is over. The factory on the Rhine belongs to other men now. Another American, Frederick Francis Sealand, is brought in to manage. A second bankruptcy follows. And then, on February 17, 1880, Johann Rauschenbach-Vogel, a Schaffhausen industrialist, acquires the entire company for 280,000 francs. It is a local family buying a local factory, and this transfer saves the International Watch Company from oblivion. Rauschenbach-Vogel dies shortly after, in March 1881. His son, Johannes Rauschenbach-Schenk, takes over at age 25. He is not a watchmaker. He makes an inspired decision. He promotes Johann Vogel, foreman of the escapement department, to technical manager. Vogel designs new calibers. The market responds. In 1884, IWC produces the first pocket watches with a digital hours and minutes display using Joseph Paulweber's system. The Paulweber watches are an unexpected commercial success, and they set the company on sound financial footing for the first time since Jones departed. Rauschenbach Schenck also does something Jones never managed. He starts selling IWC watches worldwide, not just to one country. Jones, meanwhile, is gone. He files for bankruptcy in 1878, listing liabilities of $26,955.47. He moves to New York. He becomes a dealer. He drifts into steam machinery, works for the American Steam Appliance Company in Roxbury, and takes out patents on pressure regulators and recording gauges. He marries Susan P. Jones in 1882 in Manchester, New Hampshire. They have no children. He never makes another watch. He dies on October 18, 1916, in Somerville, Massachusetts. He is 75 years old. He is cremated and buried at Mount Auburn Cemetery in Cambridge. No definitive photograph of him exists. 2 years before his death, annual production at the factory he founded has already reached 25,000 units. He does not live to see what his idea becomes. Rauschenbach Schenck steers IWC for 24 years until his death in 1905. His daughter Emma marries the psychiatrist Carl Gustav Jung in 1903. His other daughter, Bertha Margareta, marries Schaffhausen industrialist Ernst Jakob Homberger the same year. When Rauschenbach Schenck dies, Homberger takes control of IWC. He eventually buys Jung's shares and becomes sole owner. It is Homberger who guides the company through its next transformation. Homberger's two sons, Hans Ernst and Rudolf, are trained pilots, rowing champions, and aviation enthusiasts educated in England. Their passion for flying becomes IWC's next chapter. In 1936, the same year Hans Ernst Homberger receives his Swiss pilot's license, IWC launches its first special pilot's watch. It carries reference number IW436 and houses caliber 83. The specifications are built for the cockpit: an anti-magnetic escapement, a shatterproof crystal, high-contrast luminescent hands and numerals for quick reading and poor visibility, a rotating bezel with an index for timing short intervals, and resistance to temperature fluctuations from -40 to +40 degrees Celsius. It establishes a design language that IWC pilots' watches still carry today. 3 years later, in 1939, two Portuguese importers place an order for a series of large wristwatches running pocket watch calibers, precise enough for merchant marine captains and officers. The first Portugueser leaves the workshop. It is a wristwatch with the soul of a pocket watch, oversized and accurate, and it will become arguably IWC's most iconic collection. Then comes the war. From the second half of the 1930s through the end of World War II, IWC is one of 5 watch manufacturers that build BR observation watches for the German Luftwaffe. The others are Stoer, Laco, Wemper, and A. Lang und Söhne. The big pilot's watch, first manufactured in approximately 1940, is built to Luftwaffe specifications. A steel case enlarged to a massive 55mm in diameter, 16.5mm thick, weighing 183 grams. Powered by caliber 52 TSC with a central seconds hand. An inverted triangle flanked by 2 dots marks 12 o'clock for orientation. Approximately 1,000 pieces are produced. At the same time, IWC supplies watches to British Commonwealth forces. The company provides timepieces to both the Axis and the Allies. On April 1, 1944, American bombers of the 8th Air Force take off from England to attack chemical works at Ludwigshafen, Germany. A Pathfinder bomber equipped with radar leads the formation. The radar fails. The navigators lose their bearings over an undercast sky. Approximately 50 B-24 Liberators misidentify Schaffhausen as their target and release 371 bombs over the neutral Swiss city. Between 40 and 60 people die. Hundreds are injured, nearly 500 are left homeless. The people of Schaffhausen are accustomed to Allied planes flying overhead and do not take cover. Many stand in the streets and look up at the sky. The IWC factory is hit by a bomb that crashes through the rafters. It does not detonate. Incendiary flames from nearby explosions penetrate through broken windows, but the company's own fire brigade extinguishes them. The factory survives. Ernst Jakob Homberger, now in his mid-70s, makes one last critical decision. In 1944, he appoints Albert Pelleton as technical director. Pelleton is a recognized authority on watch mechanisms and production processes, and he will become the driving force behind IWC's post-war engineering identity. He develops the Caliber 89, renowned for its accuracy. He designs a bidirectional Powell winding system, using twin pawls and a winding wheel that converts the smallest rotor movement in either direction into mainspring energy. It becomes known as the Peloton winding system, and it will power IWC automatic movements for decades. He also develops the soft iron inner case, a cage that shields the movement from the magnetic fields generated by the electrical appliances spreading through post-war daily life. In 1955, the year Ernst Jakob Homberger dies at age 85, his son Hans Ernst takes the helm and IWC launches the first Ingenieur. It houses Peloton's Caliber 85 automatic movement inside a soft iron cage. It is a watch designed for engineers working in an electrified world. But the greatest test is still ahead. In the 1970s, cheap quartz watches from Japan flood the global market. The Swiss watch industry plunges into the deepest crisis in its history. Hundreds of manufacturers close their doors. Tens of thousands of jobs vanish across the Jura arc. In 1978, Hans Ernst Homberger, the last private owner, sells IWC to Video Adolf Schindling AG, a German company that makes speedometers and automotive instruments. The Homberger family's stewardship, which began in 1905, ends after 73 years. Video forms a new division called Les Manufactures Horlogers and installs an engineer named Guenter Blümlein to run it. Blümlein is born in 1943. He is trained as an engineer but possesses an instinct for marketing and brand identity that most engineers lack. He looks at IWC, a company on the edge of irrelevance, and sees one thing clearly: the heritage is the asset. He does not chase quartz. He commits to mechanical excellence. The results arrive fast. In 1980, IWC introduces the Porsche-designed titanium chronograph, the world's first wristwatch with a case made from titanium. The material is notoriously difficult to machine, requiring an oxygen-free environment. IWC masters it. In 1985, master watchmaker Kurt Klaus debuts his perpetual calendar module in the Da Vinci collection. The module sits atop a Valjoux 7750 base caliber. It is as complex as perpetual calendars produced by the most elite houses, but it retails at a fraction of the price. It democratizes a complication that had been reserved for the wealthiest collectors. Blümlein calls Klaus the Einstein from Schaffhausen. In 1986, IWC produces the first watch case made of black zirconium oxide ceramic. In 1990, after 7 years of development, IWC launches the Grand Complication, featuring a minute repeater designed by Dominique Renaud and Giulio Papi alongside a perpetual calendar with a 4-digit year display. In 1993, for IWC's 125th anniversary, the company unveils Il Destriero Schaffhausen, at the time the most complicated mechanical wristwatch ever built in Schaffhausen. The loop closes here. Jones's sentence from 1868, the excellence of the American system of mechanism combined with the more skillful hand labor of the Swiss, is now embodied in titanium cases machined to tolerances he could not have imagined. Housing perpetual calendars assembled by hand by craftspeople whose skills trace back through the same tradition Jones sought to harness. The machine and the hand are not just coexisting. They are inseparable. Every complication Kurt Klaus builds requires both. Every case Blümlein commissions in ceramic or titanium requires both. The central idea, proposed by a 27-year-old from New Hampshire in a rented factory, has become the operating logic of one of the most respected watchmaking houses in the world. In February 2000, the Swiss luxury group Richemont acquires IWC, along with Jaeger-LeCoultre and A. Lange & Söhne. There would have been a role for Guenter Blümlein in the group, but in 2001, after a short and serious illness, He dies unexpectedly at the age of 58. Georges Kern is appointed CEO in 2002 at 36 years old, the youngest CEO in Richemont's history. The expansion continues. In 2002, IWC revives the Big Pilot's watch with reference 5002, powered by caliber 5001, an in-house automatic movement with a 7-day power reserve and the Peloton winding system. The first self-winding caliber in history to run for a full week on a single wind. The Big Pilot becomes an icon again. Under CEO Christophe Granger-Hare, a trained architect, IWC opens a new manufacture Zentrum on August 27, 2018, for the company's 150th anniversary. The facility spans 13,500 square meters. It costs 42 million Swiss francs. Movement component production, case manufacturing, and hand assembly share a single floor. Solar panels line the roof. Groundwater cools and heats the building. 240 employees work here alongside the roughly 720 at the Old Town headquarters. The building is designed to accommodate up to 400 workers as the company grows. It is Jones's idea made architectural, the machine and the hand, one roof, one floor, the entire process visible from end to end. Today, IWC Schaffhausen operates as a subsidiary of Richemont, which reported 21.4 billion euros in total revenue in 2025. IWC maintains approximately 650 to 800 employees across its Schaffhausen sites, plus staff in boutiques and service centers spanning 6 continents. It remains the only major Swiss watch manufacturer located in eastern Switzerland. Collections built across more than 150 years define the brand. The Portugieser, the Pilot's watches, the Portofino, the Ingenieur, and the Aquatimer among them. IWC is recognized as a pioneer in the use of titanium, ceramic, and its proprietary material, ceratanium, in watchmaking. In 2018, the World Wildlife Fund ranked IWC first among 16 Swiss watchmakers for environmental sustainability. The factory still sits on the banks of the Rhine in Schaffhausen, in the same town, near the same site where a 27-year-old American signed a lease in 1868. In 2005, IWC honored its founder with a limited edition called the Portugieser F.A. Jones. It was the first time the name Florentine Ariosto Jones appeared on an IWC watch in over a century. Jones's idea was not complicated. Bring the machine and the hand under one roof. Let each do what the other cannot. The machine cuts, the hand finishes, the machine standardizes, the hand refines. It did not require genius. It required someone who had worked in both worlds, who had stood inside an American factory in Boston and then walked into the scattered farmhouses of the Swiss Jura and refused to accept that the two systems had to remain apart. He pursued the idea for 8 years in Schaffhausen, lost everything, went home to Massachusetts, and never made another watch. The company he left behind changed owners, survived 2 bankruptcies, 2 world wars, a direct bombing, and a quartz revolution. It is still making watches his way. For centuries, Swiss timepieces were assembled from parts made in scattered farmhouses across the Jura Mountains, 1 gear at a time, 1 spring at a time, carried by hand to a central workshop. 1 American, 1 factory, 1 sentence on a business plan ended that era in Schaffhausen and proved that precision and craft are not opposites but partners. Florentine Ariosto Jones built a watch company that outlasted him, outgrew him, and proved the only thing he ever asked it to prove. Every company has a story like this. Subscribe if you'd like the next one to find you.